Futures trading involves risk and is not suitable for all investors. Content provided in this segment is meant for educational purposes and is not a solicitation to buy or sell commodities.
Welcome back to Pasture to Pin. We are excited to bring you yet another episode with market insights and analysis with the intention of helping you manage your risk when it comes to your cattle operation. I am your host, MT Rowen, recording from my home office. I am once again joined by Big Sky Country's very own Mr. Dan Johnson. Montana Dan, welcome back to the show.
Hey, MT. Thanks for having me back on. I'm excited to be here today and hopefully talk about some global beef imports.
We are thrilled to have you, my friend. Before Dan and I get going, let me timestamp this episode. Today is Tuesday, April 16th, 2024 at 3:40 in the afternoon. Spring is in full bloom here on the Southern Plains. Several places from Texas on up to Nebraska have enjoyed some version of spring precipitation. As we look to the forecast, it appears precipitation will be somewhat limited in some areas, especially in the Corn Belt. This is a double-edged sword as growers look to get planters in the field. Limited rainfall can make for quick planting, but those same crops need that same rainfall to make any kind of yield. I'm sure the moisture situation will take shape as rain clouds can find the planter just as easy as they can find the combine. Over in the futures market, cattle futures have been on a bit of a wild ride as both feeder and live cattle futures have broken through key support levels and have settled below every major moving average. On the date of our last episode, April 2nd, May feeder futures closed that session at $244.85, almost a $14 drop since March the 21st. May futures continued to fall to a low of $234.200, a drop of $10 and some change. Over on the live cattle side of the board, June live cattle futures closed at $176.37 on April 2nd, down $8 from March 21st and reaching a low of $171.475. This downtrend has been attributed to avian flu concerns, as well as some macroeconomic issues surrounding debt, government spending, and geopolitical tensions. The last two sessions have seen both sides of the board post strong gains, with May feeder futures climbing back to $240.975 and June live cattle futures climbing back to $175.725. On the cash side of the market, the move lower has not been as pronounced as on the future side. The CME Feeder Cattle Index 7-day average has moved lower, but has not experienced quite the volatility that we have seen on the future side. Friday, April 12th, saw the 7-day average fall $3.50 to a price of $241.07. Week over week, the 7-day average has moved lower by $7.55. Live cash cattle prices were trading near the $190 level in March. They have backed off $6 to $8 as Southern cattle feeders traded cattle last week at $182, while Northern feeders traded at $184 to $185. Amidst all the angst about animal sickness, macroeconomic concerns, and the recent rally in gold, cattle supplies still do remain tight, and this tightness has been seen in the cutout. Choice still remains the $300 mark, with 4:15's PM release showing choice at $300.88 and select at $291.34. Given this tight supply, there has been little to speak of when it comes to meat exports, but the conversation and focus has shifted to meat imports. Paired with the strength in the U.S. dollar, there is opportunity for packers to import and take advantage of that strength. Here today to talk about just that is Mr. Dan Johnson. Dan, please take us through the import scenario, sir.
All right, MT. Well, thank you for talking about those fundamentals of the market. Just like you said, global imports for beef have changed a lot. That doesn't come with a lot of surprise looking at historical standards when it comes to the US dollar strengthening through the last year and also the smaller inventories of cattle within the US. So let's talk about the USDA's beef import numbers that just came down the pipe. So as we look at the chart, there's quite a few countries that can import to us, but there's 5 big ones that we talk about the most and that we have on this chart: Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Mexico, Brazil. So as we look at this chart, Brazil obviously has the biggest increase. You can see in the dark blue, it's really jumped up as we get into the first part of this year and in January and February, followed by Australia, also big increases. We're only talking about beef here, not live animals. We see a lot of live animal, whether it's feeder or fed cattle from both Mexico and Canada. But for today, to keep things simple, we're just going to talk about these beef and veal imports. So as we look at currencies, it starts to paint a picture and make a lot more sense. We can't talk about global trade without talking about currencies. You can get pretty deep and get lost in the numbers, but to put it simply, the Brazilian real has been the big mover, allowing for US dollars to have more buying and purchasing power for those Brazilian beef imports. We're also going to talk about Australia. It hasn't seen quite as large of a move, but relatively, our dollar does have a little bit of strength over theirs. And then Canada fares much the same. Another thing that makes this kind of make sense is that other people on our team have alluded to that Brazilian cost of production for beef cattle is really low compared to the US. And coupled with that, whether you talk about Brazil or Australia, both of them have been growing their herds from the reports we've seen. If you look at Livestock Meat Australia's website, they're discussing that Australian beef supplies and cattle supplies peaked out in 2023 as the highest number of cattle they've seen in 10 years. So that's very much the opposite of what we've seen in the US, where cattle supplies are getting tighter. Overall, why it matters, these exchange rates, the strengthening US dollar, making just what we see here, that beef imports have jumped a lot, and that's going to affect the cattle market. Although I'm a huge proponent of US beef, I think we raise the most nutritious, safest beef in the world here. It's also really important to remember that trade with bringing in lean trim can add some value to our carcasses' fat. So overall, trade doesn't always have to be a bad thing, doesn't always have to hurt our prices, especially when we think about at what price do we start to see demand destruction with beef? Maybe we can import a little, be able to save that demand destruction and keep beef hopefully affordable so that consumers don't switch to pork or chicken and continue to stick with beef.
Thank you very much, Dan. That was great insight, great analysis. If you have any questions about the facts and insights presented today, or any questions about managing risk in the current market, please see below on the screen for mine and Dan's contact information. With that, that is a wrap for this episode of Pasture to Pen. Thank you to all of our viewers for watching this episode. If you have not done it yet, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and click the bell to be notified of future episodes. A big thank you to Paige, welcome back by the way, who captained the ship for us today. Another big thank you to the entire Everag Insights team for making this show a reality. Until next time, stay safe and pray for rain.